We're live.
We're live, back after education day, for break. We are now switching to H 542, the PCB of the schools bill. We have Matt Patman with us. Matt volunteered the last time. He spoke with some suggestive language for us around the deadline or whether we want or not be one.
Sure.
And we have our copies are just.
Yeah, right here.
Oh,
Yeah.
You do, okay. Matt, you're on.
All right, great.
I
So
can,
thank you. For the record, my name is Matt Chapman. I'm the Director of the Waste Management Prevention Division. And the document that I'm talking about is entitled in our proposed changes to H 542, strike all. It's dated January 23rd. This is also what we presented to the House Committee, which they elected not to do. So this, just to give a little context, part of what this does, if anyone has had the unfortunate pleasure of actually working with the various changes to the PCB laws, they've almost all been done in the Appropriations Act, sort of sequentially. And what this tries to do is put most of the positive requirements into law so that people can find them and use them, and hopefully it's more transparent to everyone. So that was one of the goals that we had doing this. So just going through this quickly, the definition of school is the same definition that's used in the PCB testing program now. It's all public schools and approved and recognized in the different schools.
So just to make sure people have their heads into this,
Complete.
you're going to complete strike all.
It's a complete strike all of H 542. Yes.
Okay. And you'll be telling us what the differences are as we go.
So it basically does not contain any of the provisions of H 542, right? H 542 eliminated the program. And what this does is basically says agency continue the program and do it differently.
Okay. And before you start, just go through it line by line.
Sure.
What is the telling it to do with different?
At a large conceptual level, basically what it's saying is pair this with the analysis that the legislature created for school funding, for schools,
School construction aid.
school construction aid, and there's a specific process. You have a facility master planning process, and so this weaves the PCB testing program into the school construction facility master planning process, and then basically, well, and then it sort of tells you how it works as we go through the statute or the proposed changes.
Okay.
So basically this says that everybody needs to do the investigation in the way the state says you need to do the investigations, right? It takes away the timeline, so it allows more flexibility for schools who just want to do it as a part of their facility master planning process. It also, as you move down, allows the school to voluntarily request to do an investigation anytime. So if your community, your school wants to raise their hand and do this outside the master planning process, it says you can do that. So basically you have to do it when you're doing the master planning process. You should, and yes, I know we don't use should, but I have a lot of people who really thought it's important to say when you're doing an investigation, when you're basically looking at the building inventory, when you're making a decision as a school district as to whether you're going to keep a building or not keep a building. We didn't want to mandate it, but we highly recommend that schools go into the PCB testing process. It doesn't make sense to choose to go into a building, invest money in that building, and then all of a sudden find out you have a problem as soon as you made those investments.
Who decides whether the thinking about the future is a true master planning process and when it's sort of sending master planning process?
So the master planning process is in Title 16. It's in 3445 sub A. It's a part of the state capital construction planning process. You probably should have Jill, because she is much more looped into the when it's truly a master planning process versus not. You cannot get access to state again, there's no funding there right now, but you cannot get access to state construction aid without going through the master planning process. And this basically sets that up as prerequisite.
Okay.
If you're gonna go through and do the master plan, you got to ask for PCPs to get your school construction aid. All right, so have to do it in the master plan, should do it if you're doing a building inventory. Gives people permission to do it if they want to and raise their hand. What happens if you find PCBs? So it basically lays out sort of, I'm gonna call it sort of almost like a triage response, right? If you have PCBs and they're at or below the school action level, we're gonna have something that's called a PCB management plan that we're putting together. We're gonna tell schools, we would like you to implement it. And basically what that is wet wipe dust out of rooms that have PCBs in them. Make sure your HVAC is working and you're maintaining it so that you're getting good ventilation and air circulation. So sort of common sense things. And then I think depending on what the levels are, having a conversation around whether the carbon canisters that fix and treat the air should be put in that platform. Number two is basically if we have a school that basically exceeds the immediate action level, which is the sort of higher levels that we're more concerned about, then basically the goal is that we would do a mitigation. So some degree of putting in the carbon canisters, doing some limited sort of like are there simple things that we can get rid of that are going to mitigate the PCB issues. And then we would retest, and basically, if after that retest, you're below the immediate action level, we basically are going to sort of put you into a mitigation run. I mean, again, part of the goal of this is to get people into as safe a place as we can get people until they're planning to do the type of work that will allow them to remove the PCBs. So, however, this also contemplates if your concentrations are really high, even after we've done the mitigation, then we need to go through, we're not going to let people be in classrooms that are just unsafe, right? So that's when we go through and start doing the work to try and deal with the unsafe classrooms. So that's really the structure of the proposal that we're putting out there. I'll pause before I move forward with the funding element. Just ask you the questions. Okay. So then the second part of this proposal basically creates a special fund again in DEC that would reimburse schools for the work that is done pursuant to this provision. It also consists of reimbursements that either the state or a school who did work using state funds that recovered those funds through private litigation. There's private litigation right now going on between schools and PCB manufacturers as well. So those monies get in there. Appropriations, the sort of standard language of what goes on. It allows us to administer a grant program and sets up a priority system, prioritizing investigations that are part of the master plan, development of those PCB management plans. So sort of how do you fix things in a room, mitigating when we have an immediate action level. I'm sorry, we're on page 3, B1, and then the prioritization is A through F. And again, these are just sort of the steps of things that we do when we see PCB exceedances in a school, and it's trying to say, okay, if we have a whole bunch of things, this is how we're going to prioritize them. I guess I'll also share, I mean, so there is no appropriation and there is no money in this special fund. People who don't regularly work in the appropriations process or in the state budgeting process, one of the benefits of having a special fund, especially a special fund to a dedicated source like this, is if we do end up with a school who elects to test and we find that we have a problem and there's a need to do some work when the legislature is not in session, we can spend in that special fund and come back for budget adjustment to basically replenish the fund that's been. So it allows us to deal with emergencies outside of the legislative session and spend it in those special funds. So I mean, those are really the core and sort of important points of this. I mean, there's a little bit of wonkiness in it. And I guess the last important thing to just note is it eliminates the deadline of July 27 for all testing to be done. Again, it sort of sets the time horizon further out into the future in accordance with this school construction process and allows more flexibility to schools on when they want to come in and test. So that's the proposal. And I'm, like I said, I'm happy to answer questions or.
Thanks, sir. So I'm just curious, trying to track here. This document is a complete strike all for what we have as passed by the House.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I was trying to make sure.
Okay.
And does it do anything to schools that are going through the remediation process?
I mean, those schools basically would continue. I mean, I think that they would be slotted into the process that is planned here. So for schools that we could stabilize and basically allow them to maintain the status quo until they go into a construction related activity.
I was thinking about schools that are in the middle of the program remediation right now.
Schools that are in the middle of remediation, they would continue going and we would continue working with them and looking for funding for them to complete the remediation activities. No, nothing would affect them.
So the difference, so the current, all schools are to test by July 1, 27.
Correct.
Okay, which at this point, it's not even anybody for testing, right?
Correct.
It's not happening. Nothing's moving. The House would simply eliminate, basically just eliminate full program. And this would shift testing to happening when there's master planning. So that we don't end up putting an additional school that's contaminated.
Correct.
Yes.
So again, just trying to track between the two different documents. So in the passed by House, there was a commissioner of health. Or assessment of health impacts, et cetera. So is that in yours or not?
You know what? That came on the floor. So no, it's not. I mean, there are some challenges with what's being asked for in that study. And again, I'm happy to report back or send something in writing. That's really a health department report. I'm aware that they looked at it and said that some of the things that are being asked for, they probably can't answer them the way that they're being asked for them.
Well, they can propose language too.
That is true, Senator. Yes.
So what did that study do?
Assessment of health impacts on the students and staff of airborne PCBs.
We know that, don't we?
Well, they come up with recommendations too, like, depending on the age, they can remain in this building or this room, right?
Right. I mean, the health department, so they've sort of reviewed the literature that is out there on what the health effects are from these things. They've developed sort of, general standards as to what that is. And then when we get into a school, we can get much more tailored as to what's going on in that school and trying to work with the school to, again, sort of mitigate the impacts on educational opportunities in the sort of specific setting. So I think trying to, and I think the deputy commissioner sort of said this, trying to get to the actual RPCBs leading to health effects in Vermont populations is very difficult with the size of Vermont populations and the challenges we have. But as I think she said, we have health impacts that are similar to the health impacts of people who are exposed to PCBs that they're seeing in reports that are coming in. So, I'm happy to confer with the department about that. There's a recommended change to that if the committee is interested.
I feel a little flat footed on how the rest of the committee feels, but it would be helpful, and I'm not sure how and when to do this, but I mean, it's only like one's 4 pages, one's 5 pages. But they seem like they're moving in different directions, and just, just as an example, as passed by House, pretty clear that cease test, terminate all scheduled, et cetera. So very clear on these are all objectives. Whether yours, it's a different format, it's a different approach. I just like to, kind of like even like side by side, so the committee can say, okay, cease testing, yes or no. Terminate schedule. School that tested positive, line of action, just something to like, okay, just take us right down through the series of options. And then that becomes the final bill. The master planning process, facilities master planning process, all that's good stuff, no doubt. But I don't really know like how this, before we abandon as passed by House and pick up your effort, which I appreciate. Just not quite sure where, how we weave from one to the other. And if the departments are one that are appropriate in the other and vice versa, and in the end, we end up with a good product. That's all that's missing for me is to see your effort and appreciate it. To see their effort and I appreciate it. Just not quite sure, how close they are or how far they are. That's all. That's where I am.
I can do that.
Okay, that'd be helpful. Otherwise, we're in here trying to pick it apart. I'm not sure that's best use of stuff.
I want to pick it apart right now.
We'll get it.
Yeah. So stick it on that.
So it's Mike O'Grady with Bunch of Council. I understand what Matt's gonna do, but I don't know, A, if it will do anything for a couple of years. And B, if it works mechanically with the way it's supposed to interface with the master planning process. Remember, the master planning process is a voluntary process. A school has to avail itself of the process. That's the language that's used in it. So if a school never avails itself, it's never going to do this. Second, there's no money in the capital construction fund for school construction. And I don't know when there will be. You probably know better than I do. And then this is an application process. The 3445A that's referenced in Matt's proposed language on page 1, about a third of the way down, saying that a school shall investigate for PCBs when evaluating environmental contaminants as part of the facilities master planning process. That's an application. And you identify in that planning process what you need funding for. And then there are priority points that are assessed for what you need funding for your construction for. How does that priority process interface with this new PCB fund, which has different priorities? It's like, do you need to reference that if during the master planning process, PCB investigation is needed, it not assess a priority point under the school construction program that is going to be funded underneath this new PCB fund? And if that's the case, I think the language needs to be revised a little bit.
Again, what master planning process are we referring to? Tentative or in law now?
No, so there is a provision in 16 VSA 3445 that says school district eligible for assistance under 3447, and 3447 is the school building construction funding for state bonds for school district.
Okay, this is the 16-year defunct, not funded.
Exactly.
Okay, so we don't really have a master. Facility master.
Correct. That's what I'm trying to point out.
I'm just trying to stay up on the conversation of what's real and what's recommended in this language.
Right. And John Gray and I were talking about it this morning about how this would work. And John's point is, there's no money, nobody applies, nobody does the master planning process, because if they're gonna need money, they go to a school bond.
Yeah.
And they don't go through the state, they go through the locality, and there's no requirement here for that, for testing underneath the school bond. In fact, John's point is, you, the legislature and school districts, municipalities have been trying to make access to school construction funding easier by removing disincentives for that. This is a disincentive. And
Which part is it just? More
to testing for PCBs and incorporating that into a planning process that then is part of why would a school do this? The schools, to an extent, the school's got to do it already. If it's a pre-1980 building and they're going to be doing significant construction, they would be negligent if they didn't do an environmental assessment of their facilities to determine whether or not there are PCBs there. And most likely any professional consultant that's going to do the first phase environmental assessment is going to do that or recommend that that be done. But this isn't that, right? You contract for that. You put criteria around you want that consultant to test for it. This is saying everything that the school's got to do. If schools aren't going to do this.
So the only reason they do it is if there were real money in the state for construction.
There was real money.
And there was money to even for this, for testing.
And this got prioritized up because remember, when you apply underneath the existing school construction fund, it's a priority system. So what points will this get? Unless you prioritize it underneath that fund, it's probably going to be no different from like radon testing. You gotta do it.
I did because first I want to say, to be fair to Matt, I think he was trying to create like a middle ground that I'm not sure exists because of what Mike just said, but also I guess I was left with, we should continue to fund testing and encourage testing because it's largely the group left is the pre-1980 buildings that could be at risk. So I guess what I'm taking away, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, is that the absent working on facilities policy writ large, fixing the master planning process, funding a building authority for the state or something, we are more or less left with imperfect options, like just continuing the program or ending the program. My vote is still to continue the program, but I don't know that we can leave the rest out of thin air.
You do continue the program in this language. That is, it's on page 4.
Right, which would already be a rejection of the House bill.
Yeah.
I think Matt tried to write in this magical idea that we had that like there was gonna be money or we could find a new way forward. I think the way forward is only just extending the deadline. And
let's get mad at
Yeah.
this. Let
me first of all agree with Senator Ransdale and thank her for basically identifying that this was an effort to try and find a way between blank. And I guess I want to amplify and sort of both form as a question, but also I am not sure exactly what would happen in the context of school construction funding. I'm not an education expert, but I think that because regardless of whether the House bill passes or not, PCBs in indoor air in schools continues to be hazardous material under state law. And because it's a hazardous material under any phase one environmental assessment, that becomes a recognized environmental condition that a school is going to need to look at if they're going out and getting at least bank finance money. So I think that regardless of whether the House bill passes or it doesn't, that issue is still out there. As far as when construction comes on, to some degree, what I was thinking about and trying to do is make sure that there's an architecture for funding and prioritizing the work that gets done and how we're doing it. Knowing that there's limited resources and we're going to have to work collaboratively to come up with the resources to do this.
Matt's definitely correct. Under state law, a hazardous material is defined to include the release of PCBs in indoor air, and that does trigger response and remediation. But when are you going to do that? If you take away the mandate by 2027, there's a program, but there's no requirement to do that at any point until, as Matt referenced, if you're going to go to construction and you're going to self-finance municipal bond, school bond finance, your lender is going to require an assessment for due diligence. And that's when you would do it. So that's going to be variable across the state, school district to school district, town to town. So there won't be any consistency or predictability when there would be an assessment. And that also raises the question, will there be money when there is investigation and testing and there is exceedances of the school action levels? Right now, there's not. And so what happens? The House bill tried to say the state's going to continue to fund that. And honestly, there's still session law out there that says the state's going to fund investigation, remediation, and removal. But there's no money. I mean, I don't know how else to say it.
But being its law, could a district sue the state for the money?
I mean, I wouldn't say that they would sue the state. I think they would probably put in a reimbursement request and then work through the General Assembly, to ensure that your localities are reimbursed. But it's about finding the money for that. And I'm not creative enough of money that.
So we still have a moratorium against school construction. Is that in law? It's like, this is like deja vu.
School construction funding.
Yeah.
The state construction.
Well, I remember when that happened. I don't remember what the end point was. There was an end point for that.
Okay. I think it started in 2007. Yeah, still, there's no such thing.
Not that I'm aware of, but I will have to check with Jonathan on that.
Alice Emmons might be the only person left in the building who remembers the majority of details about why that happened, what happened.
So, did you have more?
I mean, that's just details from that point on. I mean, the part here. It's a greater.
So to go back to what's going on here. I think that's just part seeking the way that have this thing to still be rethinking.
That proposal works
Keeps it alive for that.
if you have money in both of those accounts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I don't mean to be flip, but it works if you've got money.
I mean, respectfully, I think that the bill that passed the House, the bill that I'm putting forward, and leaving the program to continue to operate, all envision the state spending more money in this program in the future.
I agree with that.
The House version doesn't look like.
Oh, it does.
Oh, it does. It says that those schools that have already investigated and tested and exceeded the levels, they need to continue with their contamination remediation and removal, and the state's gonna pay for it. But there's not enough money left for the state to pay for all of that. So it pauses until the state comes back with a recommendation of how much to appropriate to continue that. And there's also an overall recommendation on how the state should handle all the rest of the schools that haven't done investigation.
So a recommendation or is it going to look at?
It's both.
Okay.
I think it's pretty simple. It's a decision tree. Cease testing, continue testing, get a consensus. Alter the bill to reflect that consensus. What happens if they've already tested positive? What's the step? It's a decision, get a consensus, so you can put it into language. Funding from the state. Again, it's just a decision tree. And I think that's where we are.
That's the House bill.
Right, no, what I'm saying is, we don't yet know if the committee even agrees
Right.
on, 1, 2, 3 other elements of the House bill, elements of what Matt has put into his language. I think that's the stuff, that's the.
Side by side, we're saying.
And I'll do the side by side. Not a problem.
I don't think any of this is that complicated. It's a huge issue. There's money involved or not. But that's where we kind of need to see where folks are in the committee. That's.
I love how like opaque Mike is in the best of ways. I just want to ask a very direct question so I can understand. If we pass the House bill, would a headline be accurate that said state ends PCB testing program in schools?
I would say probably more accurate that it's something like puts a long-term pause,
Okay,
because all you need
Right.
is the money and the recommendation to reinvigorate.
And Matt's is a slightly different because Matt's gets triggered if we fund school construction without having to re-trigger this specifically. Matt's gets
And the school voluntarily avails itself of the school construction aid, which I've never seen voluntarily avails itself. That's the language that is used. And so even if you got the money, a school would say, we're not going to do it.
we've done that much match.
Right. It would all be about the incentive for them to do it.
So that there is a subtle difference here. Matt's gets triggered if we put money into school construction. The House version requires that we switch this, flip this switch.
You turn it off.
Yeah.
Until you know you have enough money to turn it back on.
Yeah.
And you have to legislatively act to turn it back on.
Our action through Matt's version is more incorrect.
Yes.
So I think if you don't mind me, like, I think that the House version, I mean, we can, I would say that it pauses the program, right? That it orients it, you can, I think it basically, if one of the major differences is that the plan that we put out there says that if a school today wants to move forward in tasks that the state will basically commit to either in the present, or as Mike said, we would approve future payment of the work that is being underdone to task for PCBs and deal with them. The House version very clearly says it's on the schools if that happens, right? So if from the date the House version passes, schools who elect not as a part of the program to test are responsible for any of the outcomes associated with that testing. That's a big difference between what I'm proposing and what the House proposed.
That's why I go with option one, just extend the deadline.
That is an option then.
Or just eliminate the deadline. But the mandate is there, the money's not.
But the intent of the legislature or the intent of the state government to
Fund that. at
Fund
some
it.
point is there.
Bond of eliminating the deadline so we don't have this conversation every year.
I love.
We gotta
things
keep
like-
ourselves so
No,
contained. You have to keep, gotta be some pressure. So it can't just be an open-ended issue that migrates, badly into the future.
But eventually we're going to be putting money back.
Right, I hope. And if that's our strategic objective, let's ensure that's what we're articulating in our bill. Otherwise, why are we wasting time? That's just my perspective. Let's figure out what our strategic goals are. And then affect the language in that regard. Part of it's what maybe in the House bill, part of it's not bill, and part of it's the part that's still missing.
part that's still missing is a state school building plan.
Okay, agree.
Like, I would love to work on that next month, the 6 weeks if we have time. But if we don't have time, we don't have time. Like then I just get rid of the deadline.
Well, next thing we're gonna do is get the,
Side by side.
Yeah.
Yep.
thanks, Overfield. We will see you again.
So what's the timeline for the side by side?
It's. What else? Let's think.
Are you gonna take this up again this week?
I do.
Okay, then I'll have it for you on Monday.
Are we done? I'm thinking of.
I don't believe.
Not the way,
Maybe.
ladies. We have.
Senator Campion in on Friday.
Oh, Senator.
Oh, we do?
Yeah. We don't need a fight. We don't need a fight. So, we'll listen to him and add that to the mix.
We'll make Senator Campion bring it. Bye, guys.
Yeah, that'll be,
Yeah,
Monday will be fine.
All right, great.
Thanks. Okay. Still have any energy left? That will be. It's done something. For us.
Oh, that's
Pretty, but it's.
that's prettier than most spreadsheets.
Oh, scroll forward.
Yeah. Where do we start? And this to start.
The orange.
With Advanced Vermont, right?
That's the one that has the header.
Yeah, the orange and the
Yeah.
header, and then it's just a alphabetical order.
Oh, I see. Four.
Oh, advanced.
Yeah, okay. So what? That we tried to do for us. Is. Identify the ask. Which is the 600,000 in state funding. What she is going to work on, by the way, for us for tomorrow, which we can add in by hand, is governor's recommend, let's definitely figure that out. And as passed by House and House version, so we can have that information as well. But so, so consistent with governor's recommended this, Daphne, what is the 2.73 billion across, what does that mean as it relates to advanced Vermont?
Oh, no, that's in the agency education section, again, it's in the next.
So it's everything above, when you go to agency.
Formatting, so, but.
Yeah, there's, yeah.
Rather than, okay.
Mm.
Okay, so your formatting is a little confusing, right? Because you're,
Yes.
Advanced,
So,
everything's
okay.
above and.
okay. She said she was having, oh, she was having.
Yeah, sure.
So the
I
formatting,
can show you how to alter this.
okay, so the formatting issue for now for us, just to understand,
I think
is that the organization is at the bottom, not the top. Yeah, okay.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
It details about ask, let your priorities lay out.
Mhm.
Okay, so, yeah, the advanced Vermont request is 600,000. And do we know definitely if that was consistent with the level funding?
Anybody keep what we gave last year?
Well, that's what we have to, now we have to, Kathy's working on that part. What should they're trying to figure out. But at least what we can do today, I think, is try to make sure we understand what's here. Right, so Agency of Education. Governors recommend 3.91 increase. And then Building Bright Futures is actually on top of its line, right?
Yes.
So. There's no, oh, I see no description there. I see, that's just the number. So they're looking for level funding at 798.
Right now, are we just doing like we understand the
Yeah,
breakdown?
that's what I'm
Okay.
trying to make sure I understand it. And Carbon School of Early Childhood Network. So the 500,000 Daphne on the farm to school. But it's level funding, level based funding.
I know in ag, we asked for their additional, what they were.
Yeah, I get it.
So. So here's over here on the right, she says, or they said, the farm fresh schools were all grouped together. We're asking for level based funding of 500,000 for 2 programs.
Yeah.
So it's funded, but it's not in the base?
Sure.
The 500,000 at work.
Okay.
From what I understand from ag. And then they had some additional funding that we reckon just did.
Oh, so they want 5, 5, and 5.
I think they actually wanted a little bit more than that, but they definitely wanted the 5 and 5, and they asked. Let me see from.
Oh, it's 500 each for 2 programs. That's what's confusing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
$1 million.
500 each for 2 programs.
And then you said there's another?
Yeah, they had another, and that includes ag.
Oh, that's been communicated to appropriations through ag.
So okay. So as it relates to us, they're asking us to endorse 2 $500,000 programs.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. Does that make sense to everybody? So I'm not sure I'm right. I'm just trying to figure this out as we go. Governor's Institute is looking for 10% over the governor's recommend.
Was that just a letter or did I miss? I remember them in here early.
They were in.
Okay, so that was early, so we just rolled that back.
Um,
Okay.
Okay. Let me flip over, right? Over for Vermont. And this, you recall this testimony, this was for money for the lunches and snacks at home daycares.
Child and senior care. But this is just the part for,
That is a good question.
I mean, I wanna feed seniors and children.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I don't know if I think the 182 is just for
Okay, the child nutrition.
stuff.
Just.
Okay. I mean, and the thing is, Jimmy will probably appreciate just the statement of support and knows all the. Are really good at.
So, okay, here's what that, she said, I am here, this was so April Harwood, here to ask you today, please support the farm to school and early childhood program with level funding at a base appropriation of 500,000 for fiscal year 2007. And that you also support the local food incentive program for schools with level funding at a base appropriation of 500 for 2007. But the number is different here. Why is that? Why looking at the wrong?
You're looking at the wrong one.
I'm looking at the, I'm back at the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, sorry. Why we're doing this.
Okay,
Yep.
so
So you see if I can find this.
which one are we on now?
I'm going for the one, the 182,000.
Yeah, so I just got word that, it's the exact amount of money they need to have food access in home-based childcares, and it covers the expense for the sponsoring organizations.
Oh, yes, I remember this.
This, and they draw down federal funds to then provide the food and
And without the funding for the organizations, that sort of the umbrella, they can't.
right, so there's a lot of volunteers involved,
Yeah.
but this is how they
Okay.
it work.
Do you remember the return we get for that 182?
I can ask, or somebody might hear you. I mean, it's good if people are listening. I'm surprised there's only 2 people in the room right now.
Go back to that.
They're looking it up.
Okay. So, let's go to kids. Action Network. I don't see any numbers.
Yeah, neither.
It's budget language.
Okay, just support the
Ah.
27 budget request from the agency. So support whatever that ask was.
Okay.
Oh, this is the language. No, that's not language. So let's go. Kids is supporting that language that we heard from the Floor Foundation about yesterday. I will tell you that I received a little pushback on this, and we have somebody coming in
On
on the
request yesterday.
the request from to go from the reading to 4.
Yep.
there's some pushback to keep it free. So we're gonna get, exactly. And, yeah, perhaps we have to, we can just get a look at it and make a decision. Here,
Can I ask Rebecca, did you also go to government operations? Cause I heard that Pirate Trust Fund is their, their jurisdiction.
Yeah, Rebecca Gobans, Local Core Foundation. I did reach out to the chair and asked him if he was gonna be taking it up, and he said, yeah, no interest. No,
Okay,
he hadn't
I mean, then
considered
there
it,
it is, okay,
but I did ask.
yeah.
so Daphne, on this one, the Let's Grow Kids, just this first block? And these two are Lord Foundation?
Yes, and
Okay,
yeah,
but that's okay, I just want to make sure. So
Yeah.
everybody knows this, the Let's Grow Kids was just this one,
Mm-hmm.
and then the other two are from the Lord Foundation. Okay. So then we go to UVM. And I think all they're asking, well, they're asking for us to support. Was that 3% inflationary increase to general fund? Was that consistent with the governor's recommended? I think it is.
Yes.
And then there,
15 million for that.
well, I've left out in the middle is that $1,000 per year for 5 years to support the Cancer Center. That's a separate request, I think, not in the governor's recommend. Is that correct?
You mean a million?
Yeah, yeah.
$1 million a year for 5 years. Am I right that that was not in the governor's
I don't
recommend?
recall that.
We may be able to figure that out.
I can also text Wendy Koenig.
Okay. And then we have the $50 million from the, what was the fund, the special fund?
Vermont Higher Education down trust fund.
Yeah, from the endowment trust fund. And so that's one we can have to have some discussion.
I think so.
Okay, so, and then so that one ends there. Then the Vermont Outdoor is asking us to support
The recommended.
the governor to recommend, right?
Yep.
We're recommending 500,000. Okay,
The Cancer Center is not in the governor's recommend. That feels like a bit of a education and health and welfare.
The king, where do you see that?
It's in UVM's request.
Oh, yeah. The 1 million a year.
yeah, actually. Well, I guess it's here because it's UVM. So, okay. The state colleges.
Skipped over one. The LDs. Oh, well,
No, we said that
That's
was,
the 500,000, right? Governor's recommend,
yeah.
but, okay. So let's just make sure we understand what the state colleges are.
Allied Health, General Fund.
Well, the first one is the $54 million. Right?
Oh, is the last part them added together? So it's,
No, PSAC is down at the bottom. Remember,
no, I know, but so it says 54 million for state colleges plus 1.51. That's
A total of
55.5
Yeah,
total
yeah.
general.
Yeah, they have.
And
Did you ever get the answers back from them that you wanted yet from state colleges? Yeah.
They're working.
Okay.
so so one thing, so we need to figure out knowledge we want to know is state colleges. I believe the 54 million is governor's recommend.
I can also add.
It appears, if I can, I've got this wrong. It appears that the top two lines, 54 million and the 1.5 million, sum into 55.5 million. Then the line below that, the 4.2 million, is a different, it's not summed into that. It would be another unique request, not summed into the 55.5.
Oh,
No, I
so-
think that's total. If you add up those numbers, you get that exact amount.
Talking about the
Oh,
4.2 million.
When you get to
oh, yeah, no, that's separate, sorry.
It's confused.
Yeah.
Okay, I was confused. I thought that was part of, okay, got it. So that. I think we have the handouts for this, unless. What was the 1.5 for?
I have asked the state colleges team here if they see this, if they could tell us more about the 1.5 one-time request. Wendy, I have some answers on the other things, but I can make.
Here. Okay, the 1.5 is workforce education, rural micro credential and certificate expansion.
What I asked is if it's in the GOV's budget,
Okay.
recommend.
And you asked that with regard to what?
The 1.5 million,
Okay.
just so we have the,
And the answer is?
I haven't heard back on that
Okay.
one. I have an answer on the 182,000.
Okay,
Currently draws down 2.5 million. If it was fully utilized by all children for breakfast and lunch, it would draw down 5 million.
okay, so hang on. Draws down 2.5, did you say?
Mm-hmm. If fully utilized, it would be double. So they are constantly working on bringing new programs in.
So how do they fully utilize that?
They would get more programs to participate and they would have the money to get the programs to participate. So
Yeah.
then those programs can get reimbursed, as I understand it. So it's an
Yeah, I remember this discussion about the challenges of getting.
And then Wendy Koenig said they, UVM did speak to health and welfare about the UVM Cancer Center. All of the money would go to support rural cancer care. And she's happy to come into Senate Education if you want to hear.
So why is the request in here? This commitment.
I mean, it may be in both, like, and it's, the good news, if it's Ginny, she'll, know on appropriations that she already supports it, so. We could strike it out of ours, but we're not, I don't know how we're trying to prioritize this, but yeah, that may make it,
We're gonna have to really do that tomorrow.
yeah,
It's just wanted to make sure we understand.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
And we have as much information as we can as this we can.
okay,
And figure out where our holes of information are. So we need to figure out the allied health program request 4.2 for the state colleges.
Mhm.
What's that about? Yeah, remember this, we have this page, doesn't tell the whole story, but pass that around to people that. They look like,
That's for
state colleges. has these lines at least listed.
And that I could ask the same state college team.
Yep.
They might have brought that one also to health and welfare, since it's,
Okay,
you know. Sure, I can-
I want that back.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know what I was. Okay,
Are we not prioritizing things today? We're just going.
But, yeah, I was thinking we at least make sure we
we have the universe.
understand what the numbers and know what's missing, so that we can really do it. Or, right. So, here you go, Sam. Okay, so let's make sure we understand the VSAC requests.
Okay, the feedback I'm getting on state colleges is Freedom and Unity Scholars. 2.3 million, House put it in.
That's on the very bottom.
Oh,
For starters, is the 27 897, is that a million, or is that other three zeros missing?
I think this must be zero specific.
I want to make sure.
so I didn't wanna,
Yeah.
you know, give any suggestions to Daphne on short notice, but at least for me, it's more helpful to look at like 1M for 1 million than all the zeros.
Yeah, I was just pulling
Yeah.
stuff as quickly.
No, like if that's possible for tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, let's make sure we understand, at least understand the VSAC request. Do you have more on the go? Did you have more on state colleges? Want to?
But we did not get the allied health increase, just the base. So I'm trying to figure out what that means. If 4.2 is the base. Or is the. Because I also still don't know what this one-time request is.
Yeah, I do. I know that it's,
Oh.
I know it's fuller.
This is this double counted too? It says 1.5 for Vermont mental health professional loans. Okay.
It's the Allied Health Global Group. Yeah, you're right. So,
Unless that's not double.
yeah, I'm not sure.
Do we want Rebecca Ramos in here tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay.
If she can help just really clarify exactly what their asks are, that would be good. Are you texting her?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's make sure we understand VSAC.
Right. Uh,
Um, is all of this described underneath of there? Part of the base money, VSAC.
some of it is authority. I mean, I
Yes,
can
you-
also email, so I could email Scott Giles.
Yeah, okay, do that, because I see the first one is authority, I see that one. The question is like the 84 and the 5 million.
Daphne, I'm copying you and the chair.
Are those, is that new money? Because they do say, with regard to them, that there's like the 5,289,000 is a $2 million increase. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's separate or if it's part of that.
Daphne, you're getting very vague emails from me about VSAC and state colleges.
Just one small note, all the links included, and this is uploaded on the committee's webpage as well, all of that links directly to their testimony, but no advice to Sam there, if it's helpful to refer back. Then,
It's probably good to still even ask more questions.
yeah, no,
It's good. We'll get
But
a
yeah,
couple, let's get Rebecca, and we are gonna have, I believe, VSAC in here anyway, but
okay,
no, but do it anyway,
Yeah.
do it separately. Ask the question, make sure we are. Anybody have any missing? Missing information? We didn't forget anybody. I don't think we did, definitely pretty thorough. Bishop, you've got hopefully Rebecca coming in,
mhm,
you contacted VSAC.
yeah. With
Okay.
Daphne, and you copied Rebecca, she just said what time, so she was gonna have Beth zoom in.
Okay. And I think we're good for today. So, yeah,